So Joy Lester, one of our members, is going to demonstrate all of this for you. So with that, Joy, take it over.
All right, thank you, Scott. My name is Joy Lester, and I teach wire wrapping at the Houston Gem and Mineral Society. I've been a member for about 3 years or so. I've started teaching around September of 2019. Before the pandemic, my classes were very popular. I was offering them once a month, and now I'm very grateful to be able to be part of this live show and show you all the basics of wire wrapping. What you see before you are just a few examples of wire wrapping. What we're going to be doing, what I'm going to be demonstrating today, is going to be more of a sort of cabochon encasing wrap. There are all sorts of different ways to wire wrap, but with the principle of this one, it is to encase the cabochon within a frame of wire, so there's no flames, no drilling or holes required. And to do that, you will need, of course, wire, which you're actually going to need 2 different types of wire. The first type is square wire, and the other type is half round. Now I'll show you a little picture right here. Half round is going to have a domed top, but flat surface. That flat surface is going to help stay close to the square wire, and it's going to help keep the piece together. Now, when you're out buying wire to make a piece, you want to make sure that they're both the same gauge, thickness, and the same material, and the same hardness. You can see that this type that I have here is 21 gauge, medium temper. For beginners, I recommend what is called soft tempered or dead soft wire, and again, 21 gauge. And the tools that you'll need for that, you're going to need wire cutters to snip your wire. You're going to need flat nose pliers for working with the wire and bending it certain ways. If you need to bend into a loop, which we are going to do several loops, you're going to use round nose pliers. You can see here that the tips are rounded. And if you have them, if you're able to find them, you can also use nylon jaw pliers, which you can see here they have a little coating in here so that it doesn't scratch your wire. Now, this is mostly going to be used for straightening in this case, but if you don't have nylon jaw pliers, you can always use a scrap piece of denim to straighten your wire. I'll be showing you how to do that. And so, in addition to those hand tools, you're also going to need a Sharpie to mark where you're going to put your wraps. You're going to need measuring tape to measure how much wire you're going to need. You're going to need painter's tape or some other type of low tack tape to wrap the wire until you get bundles around them. And then if you're like me and enjoy twisting your wire when you're near the end of the project, you can use what is called a pin vise, which I'll be showing you how to use that. If you don't have a pin vise, you can always use your flat nose pliers. So to get started, First thing you will want to do is measure the circumference of your cabochon. I'm using an oval cabochon. And once you get your measurement, this one is going to be 4 inches. You're going to want to add about 3 or 4 inches to that measurement because that's going to serve as the bail and the wire accents. So I already have 4 lengths of 8 inches cut. I'm actually using brass wire because I happen to have a lot of it. And so I'm going to show you how to use the little scrap piece of denim. I actually find that it straightens more effectively than the nylon jaw pliers. You simply pull your wire through and you can see already how much straighter it's become. And you're going to do that for all 4 wires, and then you're going to line them up all next to each other to where they're flat and flush. You're going to mark your halfway point in the wire. That's where the first of our bundles is going to go. And you're going to put a piece of tape about 1 inch off center on each side, and then another piece of tape at each end. Now, to make our first bundle, we are going to take 2 inches of half round wire, and we will be wrapping it around. You want to make sure that the flat side goes against the wire. The best way to tell which side is rounded, which side is flat, if you hold it up to the light, you can see the rounded side is refracting light in a sort of rounded way. If you turn it over to the flat side, you can see that it's reflecting much more uniformly. Again, here's the rounded side and the flat side. And you're going to want to make a little hook so that it stays on the wire while you are wrapping it around. So just bend the end a little bit like that. And that is going to go over all 4 wires, like so, at the halfway point. Use your flat nose pliers to keep it in place. And you are going to take the wire and, as the name suggests, start wrapping it around the wire. You want to make sure that every wrap lands directly next to the previous wrap. You don't want the wraps to overlap. And you're going to do that about 5 or 6 times. And you want to make sure that your ends both meet on the same side, because one side is going to become your inside of the frame, the other is going to become your outside. So in this case, let me go ahead and I'll show you the wire cutters in action. I'll simply be snipping the wire like so, and using my flat nose pliers to lay it flat. Now, to save time, I've already got a model that has been assembled. When you do your first wrap, you're then going to want to wrap your wire around your cabochon and determine the midpoints on each side. And you are going to place wraps on each of those sides. And you're going to want to make sure that both ends come together at the top. And we are going to use the wires up here to make a bail. If the bundles of wire are sort of slipping around, don't worry, those will be put in place once we make the back and the front. So to make the bail, I've already got an example right here. You simply take the rearmost wires and you can loop them around either a dowel, or you can also use your round nose pliers to do so. And you're going to take some more half round wire and wrap it around that wire to where it is secure. And you're also going to have between 4 and 6 wires that will be left over. Bring those to the front because those are going to become our accent wires. And then with the ones that are left over from the bail, you can either do what I did and bring them to the side to do some side accents, or you can simply trim them off. I'm going to leave them like that because I'm going to be doing some side accents. Now, this particular frame right here, I actually did it with only 3 wires because in this example, I'm going to be using a very flat cabochon. As long as you have at least 3 wires, depending on the thickness of your stone, you can do 3 or 4. Usually the standard is 4. That'll go around standard cabochon, but because this one is so thin, I'm using one that only has 3. And I'm going to show you how to do the front and the back. So we're first going to want to do the back. Put your cabochon in there, make sure it's going to fit nicely. Make sure that the side wraps are where you want them to be, because once you start moving these wires around, they are going to stay in place. Now, with your round nose pliers, you're going to take the topmost wire on the back, and you are going to, either with your fingers or with your round nose pliers, you're going to grab that wire and pull it in towards the center. You can see right here how it's kind of made a little thing like that. And I'm going to repeat that for the other 4 sides. I'll go ahead and show you. Remember, you're only grabbing one of the rearmost wires. And you're going to want your back to be as even and flat as you can get it. You can see right here that the wires, I'm not bringing them up, I'm simply bringing them to the side so that when I put my cabochon in, the wires will lie flat against it, and this is what will keep it in place from the back. Now, to make sure that the cabochon doesn't go anywhere, we are going to bring one of the front wires on each side and draw them in like that. Now, since you have the stone in the frame already, unless you're working with a stone that you know you won't scratch, I would recommend that instead of using your round nose pliers, you either use your finger or you can use a dowel if you need to push it a little more. And so, like with the back, you're going to repeat that with all 4 sides. And you can bring those wires in as close or as little as you want. Wiggle it around, make sure that the stone is not going anywhere. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit more. And now we have our frame assembled and that cabochon is not going anywhere. So now, what to do with these wires that are left over? Well, this is where the fun begins. You can choose to leave them very long like this. You can trim them. Some cases, if you need to, you can always trim them completely. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to twist the wire and then spin that wire into decorative spirals. And so I'll show you first how to twist wire with the flat nose pliers. You're going to grab one of the square wires, make sure it's nice and tight, and you're going to twist the work. I find it's easier to twist the work and keep the pliers in place. Now you can see already, based on the reflection of the light, that it is starting to spiral the wire. Because the square wire has edges, it gives it a very nice twisted effect. You can do it as tightly or as loosely as you want. I'll go ahead and leave this twisted wire like so. If you have part that does not get twisted where you were holding it, you can always snip that off. Now, if you have a pin vise, that's going to give you a much tighter spiral. And what you do is you simply put a piece of square wire in there, you tighten the vise. Now, instead of turning the piece, you're actually going to spin the vise. You can see already how quickly the wire is spinning and how much tighter the spirals are getting. And you can do it as tight as you want, get it very small. Sometimes the wire will break if you twist like that a bit too much, but that simply saves you having to cut that. And so I'm actually going to spiral, well, I'm going to twist this one with just the round, with the flat nose pliers. Just going to do a very broad twist like so. And then this one I'm actually going to leave plain because I'm going to spiral each one of these and it's going to give each one of the spirals a different look. Now for 2 of them, I'm going to do a very tight spiral. So to do that, I'm going to use my round nose pliers, grip the end of the wire, turn the pliers to make a closed loop at the end. Now taking either my flat nose pliers or my nylon jaw pliers, I'm going to clamp down and twist, making sure that you get very close to the loop with each turn. And again, you can make this as big or as small as you want. I think that'll do. You can bring it down like that. Now we're going to do a more open spiral, which to do that, you take your round nose pliers and you do just a very loose sort of hook like that. And then taking your flat nose or nylon jaw pliers, you're going to do bigger sort of rotations. And that will give you a nice sort of open spiral. And you do that with as many of the wires as you want. Your finished product is really up to your imagination. You can even put beads on your wire. Like with this one, for instance, I found some cool butterfly shaped beads and put them on there before doing very tight spiral towards the end. I also did spirals on here, and really what I like to do is let the centerpiece guide how I'm going to shape the wires and where they're going to be. And so in addition to this type of wire wrapping, there are also different types of wire wrapping you can do. There's some that involves twisting wire to make a sort of cage for the centerpiece to be in. This is sometimes good if you don't have something that is cabochon shaped. You can also do more decorative styling. For instance, this is a very popular design called the Tree of Life, where you take multiple wires and you wrap them around to make a trunk, and then you spread out the branches to give you this very unique, very awesome tree effect. So I'm just going to leave those out right here. I am aware of the time, and so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to comment below.